This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. The Manitoba government wants to revamp how mental health crises are tackled in the province. Currently, the Winnipeg Police are tasked with responding to mental health calls, but call volumes have become overwhelming. Now, police, government, and advocates say it's time for a change. CBC's Mike Arsenault has the details.
Winnipeg Police respond to a variety of calls, but the ones about mental health are becoming the focus. The Manitoba government is reviewing the Mental Health Act.
We've heard from police that sometimes they don't need to be called in, and we know that police are stretched.
The goal is to take some of the onus away from police and create more non-police options. Minister Bernadette Smith says the Mental Health Act hasn't been reviewed in 25 years, and they're consulting with experts about potential changes. The health liaison for Winnipeg Police Service, Inspector Helen Peters, says it supports the move. Peters says WPS received 234 Mental Health Act forms from May to August, which puts onus on police to respond to mental health calls.
The police officer is the only person with the authority then to detain a person involuntarily by way of a form that has been issued by a judge or a justice of the peace.
Peters says changes to the act could allow police to share the workload with people trained for mental health calls so police can focus on crime and investigations.
One response does not meet the need, and instead of looking to remove responses, what we will hope for is that addition of different types of responses to meet different needs.
The Coalitions of Families Affected by Police Violence is a group looking for change in the system. It's advocated for the family of James Woods, who died in January after being restrained by police. Megan Daniel says Toronto rolled out a crisis team pilot project with no police involved.
They diverted 78% of the calls received from 911 with no police involvement. And so I think that that's an enormous success.
The province says the review on the Mental Health Act is going to take some time, but didn't give specifics on how it will work. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This helicopter has spent thousands of hours flying over Winnipeg. Police purchased it in 2010, and now, after nearly 14 years, it's nearing the end of its life. Winnipeg police say they need a new one, as replacement parts become increasingly hard to find.
We're getting estimates of 6 months to 12 months lead time on parts. So we certainly don't want to be in that position where this asset gets grounded for extended periods because of part supply issues.
The city bought the helicopter for $3.5 million in 2010. Operating costs have fluctuated, rising from just over $2 million in 2018 to more than $2.6 million in 2022. As their eyes in the sky, police say the helicopter is an invaluable tool.
Just had a person open up the upstairs window.
With equipment like thermal imaging cameras, it allows police to monitor situations from a safe distance. The chair of the Winnipeg Police Board says it's not only useful in pursuits.
Had instances in the past where it was able to spot and detect fires on roof buildings. So it has multiple uses.
Reactions to the helicopter have been mixed over the years. A 2019 survey found a majority of respondents said the helicopter made them feel safer, but not everyone feels that way. North End resident Mary Burton says people in the inner city frequently notice the helicopter flying overhead.
They don't give any information to the community about why the helicopter is hovering over certain neighborhoods and certain areas in the North End.
Police say the helicopter serves the whole city and is only dispatched to areas where calls come in. The city doesn't know how much the new helicopter will cost or how long it'll take to pay off. That will all be determined in negotiations between the police service and whoever bids on the tender. The police hope to have it up in the sky by next year, but again, that will all depend on how long it takes to procure. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A big change in Manitoba today. Prescription birth control is now free. The provincial government is calling it a first step towards removing barriers to reproductive health care. Cameron McIntosh has more.
Maddie Sigmundson and Amanda Hawthorne say it'll make a difference to them.
Everyone I know, honestly, my age, that's something that they're taking, right?
As of today, access to prescription birth control in Manitoba is free. Both see it as more than just a monthly cost eliminated.
The cost thing, like not everyone can afford
these basic necessities. It's kind of like menstrual products. It's just another thing on top of everything, and it's something that's so necessary and it's so like life-saving almost, right?
Manitoba is the second province to do this. BC was first. It'll cover about 60 common birth control methods, including the pill and intrauterine devices. An IUD can cost over $500. The pill, about $40 a month.
Our priority is making sure that we are eliminating the cost barriers for Manitobans.
The provincial health minister says the goal is to create better access.
It's the right thing to do for healthcare and reproductive justice. It's going to allow people to plan.
The province says it's working to improve access in rural and remote areas. Experts in reproductive health say this will have an impact beyond women looking for contraception.
This isn't only about contraception. This is about managing periods, other symptoms that can come with hormonal changes, managing acne, dysmenorrhea, so painful periods.
Manitoba's plan comes in advance of a promise from the Trudeau government to include contraceptives in a national pharmacare program, which is currently before the Senate. Reproductive health advocates say Manitoba and BC are making a national plan more likely.
We really hope that having two provinces do that will help to bring other provinces to the table as well.
The provincial government is calling this a first step and says coverage may be expanded if a national pharmacare program gets passed. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Minimum wage in 4 provinces, including Manitoba, went up today. Manitoba's minimum wage is going up by 50 cents, putting it at $15.80. The hike follows a formula set in provincial law tied to the rate of inflation of the previous calendar year. British Columbia still has the highest minimum wage of all provinces at $17.40, while Nunavut is $19 an hour and has the highest in the country. Meantime, the government has revealed how much it will cost to operate a new medical tower at Portage Place. What the government won't say is how much it's paying its new landlord, True North Real Estate Development. As CBC's Bartley Kivas reports, this has critics raising questions about transparency.
This medical tower, slated for the east side of Portage Place, will have clinics, surgical centers, and other medical offices. The province agreed in February to lease space in this tower, and this morning, Premier Wabkinew clarified the cost.
When this facility comes online, we expect it's going to be about $106 million in terms of the annual operating cost.
That number includes all the medical services in the tower and the lease payment to True North. Last week, company president Jim Ludlow provided a general idea of the size of the lease.
Tens of millions for sure.
The premier, however, won't say how much money the province has agreed to spend on the lease.
I won't. For an important commercial reason, which is don't say publicly what you're paying, otherwise everyone else is going to charge you the same rate principle.
Critics on the left and right want the Canoe government to be more forthcoming. The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says only disclosure can allow the government to be accountable for its spending. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says the same thing.
How are taxpayers supposed to know if this is a good use of money if the government won't break out the numbers?
The other 2 levels of government have been specific about their support for Portage Place. Winnipeg is contributing $40 million in tax relief and grants. The federal government up to $27 million. Manitoba's official opposition says it's not surprised the Canoe government won't be specific.
Accountable, transparent are 2 words that I know that this government doesn't necessarily have in their toolkit.
The purchase of this mall closes today. Construction on the redevelopment is supposed to begin next year and finish in 2028. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Let's bring in weather specialist Riley Laychuk now. And Riley, we were talking about summer 3.0. We were, kind of a little big for our britches there for a bit because it is now sweater weather and it changed fast.
Fall, I like to describe it as we fell into fall.
I know, right?
Very, very quickly.
And that wind, so many people dealing with that wind damage today and those power outages still, lots around the province.
And some very cold temperatures, seasonably cool even for this time of the year. Look at some of our morning lows from this morning. Brandon getting down to -1 overnight last night, into the early morning hours, I should say. These are more like early morning lows. Melita at 1, Roblin at 0, Winnipeg getting down to 4 into the early morning hours, 2 degrees in Thompson. Compare that to our afternoon temperatures, almost 20 degrees through parts of Westman. Again, we got up to 15.6 this afternoon in Winnipeg. All rounded up to 16, but close to 16 degrees today. 8 in Thompson, 6 in Churchill. This looks weird. It's on a bit of a tilt, but I wanted to show it because here's the cloud cover, the remnants of that area of low pressure. And this into Ontario and Quebec is that cold front that swept through and really brought our temperatures down. Expect more fall-like temperatures as we get into the next few days. A risk of an isolated shower tonight, waking up to 12 tomorrow morning, and another breezy one tomorrow. Brittany, winds northwest gusting to 40, getting up to 15 tomorrow afternoon. More seasonable weather coming up in your forecast coming up in about 10 minutes.
All right, thanks, Riley.
Welcome.
Coming up, a med school grad says Manitoba isn't doing enough to keep new doctors in the province. How a financial incentive is being used in other provinces and not here. More local news straight ahead. A new medical school graduate says other provinces are wooing his colleagues. Some of them offer a financial incentive for physicians starting out who choose to work rurally, but not Manitoba. As the CBC's Ian Fraze explains, the graduate says Manitoba is falling behind.
Here are many of the doctors Manitoba needs. This spring, the U of M graduated more than 100. But one grad says some doctors in training are leaving because Manitoba doesn't offer the same incentives.
I already know of 3 of the people on the list that are no longer up for grabs in Manitoba, that they've fully signed and committed to other provinces.
Dr. Stefan Irvin gave a list to government with the names of medical students and residents considering incentives from other provinces. He asked Manitoba to start a similar program, but the government refused.
We were handing them so many of those doctors who are ready and willing to stay in Manitoba.
They want a return of service agreement, where a doctor gets money so they work for some time in a certain location, usually rural areas struggling with recruitment. Manitoba last offered these contracts in 2017, but no longer. The government told Irvin it had mixed experience with the program, while Shared Health says some people bought out their contract. The health minister says Manitoba provides incentives throughout a physician's career, financial and otherwise.
Our government has taken real steps to not only make sure that there's more financial incentives, but that they have the mentorship, support, guidance, and opportunities in our province that really meet their unique needs.
However, Irvin says a return of service agreement would help. While doctors are eventually paid well, they struggle with loans now.
I want resident physicians to be able to live month to month and not worry about how they're going to balance their book.
Irvin says he intends to stay in Manitoba, but without the right incentives, he's not sure how long. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A new immigrant says his family is stuck in Manitoba's daycare shortage. The number of people waiting for a spot in the province ranges from 300 to 700. As Zabina Ahmed explains, it means one man's career dreams are on hold.
So, as you can see, it's a little bit watery.
Oluwatomi Waziri is putting together lunch for his 2-year-old daughter. He's blind. The Nigerian immigrant came to Canada with the hope of building his career. But he says he can't work because he can't find a daycare space for his 2 children.
I know that there's potential in me. I know that I can be that plus to the Canadian community at large.
Waziri was robbed and attacked by armed bandits in Nigeria 5 years ago. He says he's applied to almost 10 daycares, but nothing permanent has opened up. His wife works while he's at home looking after the kids, ages 2 and 3.
I have to stop all the career dreams that I had, being a massage therapist, and even I wanted to be a customer care representative here in Canada.
He thought Canada would change his life.
Nigeria, my country where I'm from, wasn't really friendly with persons with disabilities in terms of welfare, mental support, physical support, not really accessible environment.
Jody Kell, executive director with Manitoba Childcare Association, knows all about the daycare shortage. She says as many as 700 people are on the wait list.
With the introduction of the $10 a day, childcare is far more affordable for families now. And so as it becomes more affordable, the need for childcare increases dramatically.
Nello Altamere, Early Childhood Learning and Education Minister, says the government has created almost 7,000 spaces.
We've invested $40 million into early learning and childcare just on the provincial side.
Waziri hopes a daycare spot opens up soon so he can start contributing to his family. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Health officials are warning Manitobans who use home care they may face cancellations and delays if there's a strike next week. 25,000 support workers could be off the job next Tuesday. A strike would affect clients and patients in Winnipeg and all of southern Manitoba. Essential services would be provided, but officials say clients will be contacted by phone if their home visits are canceled or postponed. Meantime, people in Saskatchewan will be voting at the end of the month. Premier Scott Moe called a provincial election today and made his first election promise.
And I commit to the people of this great province that a re-elected Saskatchewan Party government will make life more affordable by delivering the largest income tax reduction seen since 2008.
The leader of the Saskatchewan Party is seeking his second mandate. Mo is facing off against Carla Beck, who's running for the first time as NDP leader. The NDP was last in power 17 years ago. Voters there will go to the polls on October 28th. Riley Lachuk is back in here now. And Riley, it feels like we turned the page on the calendar from September, October, and it was like snapping our fingers, and it went from summer to fall immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shock to the system almost.
Yeah, the fans are being turned off, that air conditioning's going off, the heater's going on, big change.
Yeah, what a month September was, though. I want to give you some stats, including that we had the warmest September on record for Winnipeg. First, have a look at September at a glance, the month that was. This is a lot of red on this map. No surprise that September was above seasonal temperature-wise for this time of the year. Most days through the months of September above seasonal. One where we were about a half degree below seasonal, and a couple of days where we were at seasonal for this time of the year. In fact, this goes down officially as the warmest September on record for Winnipeg. We're looking at the mean temperature here, which is the average of all of the daytime highs and all of the nighttime lows from the month. Average those together, you get one number, which is 17.8 degrees. The last record was back in 2009 at 17.6. And really 2009, a bit of a trend, because this month going down as the warmest on record for September for Sprague, Emerson, and Morden as well, all defeating those records from 2009. Brandon gets an honorable mention, 0.2 of a degree away from that record. So yes, it was a warm month. We turned the page very, very quickly as we headed into the month of October here. Satellite and radar looks like this, a little bit of scattered precipitation moving through parts of the Interlake. Otherwise, we've been under a mix of sun and even some thicker cloud through southern Manitoba. That area of low pressure bringing us some cloud cover along the Hudson Bay coast, and even the potential for a little bit of light snow as we get into the overnight hours. Here's how that looks on Futurecast as we get through the next couple of days. A chance overnight into the early morning of a scattered shower, an isolated shower through southern Manitoba, but look, as this area of low pressure continues to spin through parts of northern Manitoba, the potential for maybe a centimeter or two of some wet snow for places like Tadoule Lake and along the Hudson Bay coast. Thursday, mix of sun and clouds, generally breezy for the next couple of days as well. Here's a look at your winds. Dying off a bit overnight tonight, but as we get into Wednesday, the winds do pick up once again to 20 gusting 40 through the afternoon hours. Could even see some gusts 70 or higher for parts of the northern part of Manitoba. Looking at 15 tomorrow in Winnipeg, 13s and 14s with that frost risk on Friday to wrap up the week, Brittany, and we are looking at temperatures closer to seasonal as we get into Saturday and Sunday as well.
You know what, Riley, I was holding on to summer, but I am totally ready for fall and pumpkin spice season, sweaters. I'm there.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see you in a little bit. Thanks, Riley. Well, we have to take a short break, but there's much more to come. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us.
This river and the land around me play a major role in the lives of people from Poplar River First Nation. Hi, I'm Josh Crabb, a reporter with CBC Manitoba. I spent a week in the community getting to know the land and the people who live here. We'll take you on Lake Winnipeg with commercial fishermen, and we'll go upstream on the Poplar River with a land's guardian.
It feels good. It feels good to connect on the land, connect with myself and see our beautiful land and enjoy it.
And show you a community gardening program that provides fresh, locally grown food for people in the community.
Lots of people like beans around here. Go with their moose, that's why.
Tune in to CBC TV, radio, and online to hear these stories and more.
Iran has launched a direct attack on Israel. Dozens of ballistic missiles were fired into Israel, further increasing the risk of an all-out regional war. CBC's Chris Brown has the details.
This was a day that started with news of a huge escalation as Israel ordered its troops across the border with Lebanon to engage Hezbollah forces directly. But then it got much, much worse as Iran fired a large volley of rockets at Israel. In the skies over Israel's major cities, swarms of Iranian missiles honed in on targets as Israel's missile defenses launched to intercept. Our camera captured the dramatic scene above our hotel in Jerusalem. On the ground, sirens wailed in warning as people ran for shelters. Israelis were on alert from late afternoon when Israel Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari provided the first official word that the U.S. believed an attack was coming, before later warning the missile attack could be wide-scale. But then, just moments before the air alert sounded, the Tel Aviv area was hit by another unexpected attack. 2 gunmen shot at passengers on a light rail train and people waiting on a platform, killing 6 and wounding 10. Eyewitnesses say a passerby with a gun killed at least one of the attackers. But there was little time to process that before the Iranian missiles began. In a statement, Iran's Revolutionary Guard warned if Israel retaliated, they would deliver a more crushing and destructive response. Last week, Israel assassinated Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Iran's biggest militia, Hezbollah, and many of his top commanders by annihilating his Beirut command bunker with a direct hit. Israel had already been conducting intensive bombing of Hezbollah targets in Lebanon, leaving more than 1,000 people dead. But early this morning, escalated further by sending its troops into direct combat with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The IDF says they were localized ground raids, but opponents called the operation an invasion. It appears that far more people were killed or hurt in the light rail attacks than by Iran's missile barrage, which has no confirmed deaths, but the attack seems certain to expand this war even more. Chris Brown, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Here at home, the federal Liberals have survived another non-confidence motion. As expected, a second Conservative motion has been defeated in the House of Commons. But now the Bloc Québécois has given the government an ultimatum. Kate McKenna reports.
There's nothing to negotiate.
Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet amping up the pressure on the federal Liberals.
You do this before October 29th, or we negotiate with other opposition parties to have the government fall.
Le Bloc Québécois a établi 2 conditions.
Blanchet used his opposition day to put pressure on the governing Liberals to pass a bloc bill to boost old age security for seniors under 75. Seniors over 75 got that top up in 2022.
Every possible condition has been gathered in order to make it as easy as possible for the government to do the right thing and not to be weak.
The parliamentary budget officer says the bill would cost about $3 billion annually and affect 4 million seniors, including 1 million in Quebec. Some say it's overdue.
Especially during the last few years with the inflation, COVID, and a lot of old people had severe economic problems. They're trying to survive.
But the governing Liberals aren't jumping to support it.
The Bloc's bill, although well-intentioned, now is not helping the most vulnerable seniors. A single senior with living with $30,000 would get less in support than a couple living with $150,000.
Never directly answering whether they'll help pass the bill.
That's a no from your government, is that correct?
I think we've both answered at some length, and I think we chose our words carefully.
This is one of two bills the Bloc Québécois says must pass for the government to keep the Bloc Québécois' support. The other has to do with protecting supply management in trade negotiations. But even if the Bloc does pull its support, all three opposition parties will need to vote to topple the government, and the NDP says it's taking things on a vote-by-vote basis. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada's surcharge on electric vehicles from China kicks in today. It's part of a plan to protect and spur domestic production. But critics say the tariff means it will take longer, for Canadians to drive EVs and could put other industries at risk. CBC's Lisa Shing reports.
14 years ago, Andrew Bell got his first plug-in hybrid and never looked back.
We like to just share our first-hand experiences, and hopefully they try to get behind an electric vehicle themselves.
But he thinks Ottawa's 100% tariff on Chinese electric cars, trucks and buses will drive people away.
Here is a high-quality, low-cost option to get to that, and we just see this as a necessary barrier.
Canada's surtax is now the same as the one the U.S. levied. Last month, the European Union upped its tariff to roughly 35%, an acknowledgement of China's booming EV industry and its aspirations of going global. More than half of all cars sold there are now electric or plug-in hybrids. In Canada, that rate is closer to about 13%.
The fact that they control the whole supply chain around EVs, it does make them a formidable competitor in this space.
So Canada is buying time for local industries to catch up. Ottawa has announced millions in funding for manufacturing and battery plants with the same goal.
This is an example of one of the core systems you would find in an electric vehicle.
That money and protection, an essential move for Canadian researchers too.
We want the supply of low-cost EVs, but we also want the high-quality jobs for the students that you see around you. As well as all of the trickle-down effects of the automotive sector.
All that could come at a cost. In about a decade, Ottawa wants all new cars sold here to be zero emission, a lofty goal now with the tariff in place.
This will all depend upon how well Canada's domestic EV industry will be able to take off.
This business professor warns other industries could be at risk. China has launched an investigation into Canadian canola seed exports.
It's a trade war brewing.
Global Affairs Canada tells CBC News it cannot ignore what it calls China's unfair subsidization of production costs. It isn't saying how long the tariff will be in effect and whether it plans to phase it out. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, dock workers in Montreal are in the middle of a 3-day work stoppage. Their counterparts along the U.S. East Coast have walked off the job. It's their first large-scale strike in nearly 50 years. Some of the biggest ports in the country now closed. The shutdown could cost billions of dollars a day. CBC's Peter Armstrong reports.
No contracts!
Striking dock workers have forced shipping at ports from Maine to Texas to grind to a halt. Union leaders say they'll stay off the job until their demands are met.
If we have to be out here a month or 2 months, this world will collapse.
That may sound like a rhetorical flourish, but shipping containers carry crucial goods to and around North America. This strike will at least delay delivery of everything from fresh produce to alcohol, car parts, furniture, cotton, and wood.
That daily trade value is estimated in excess of $2.1 billion US. And then given the amount of trade goods and services that flow across the countries, it's $3.6 billion across the border every day.
Shipping companies have known this strike was a possibility, so they've been rerouting containers for months. Ports unaffected by the labor action have seen record levels of cargo since August. So there won't be immediate shortages, but experts warn anything more than a few days could have sweeping effects on the economy, and it could take months to sort through the backlog.
A 2 to 3 day strike will take 2 weeks to clear.
A 1-week strike will bring us into November, and then a 2-week strike will bring us into early next year before those containers and ships will be processed.
The Biden administration has been under pressure to intervene, but for now will only say that collective bargaining is the best way for workers to get the pay and benefits they deserve. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
Hurricane Helene now ranks as one of the deadliest storms in modern U.S. history. More than 135 deaths have been reported across 6 states, and hundreds of people remain unaccounted for. Days after the storm slammed ashore in the Big Bend area of Florida, millions of people all the way to North Carolina are still without water, power, and cell service. Western North Carolina has been particularly hard hit. Emergency crews from across the U.S. and Canada are working to locate the missing and restore services. Forecasters are also keeping an eye on Tropical Storm Kirk. It's well offshore, but it's expected to become a powerful Atlantic hurricane later this week. A school bus in Thailand caught fire today, killing more than 20 people. The bus was carrying junior high and high school students as well as teachers. Some managed to escape through windows and doors. The cause of the fire is being investigated, but initial reports say a tire exploded, causing sparks which ignited the blaze. Potential rescuers say they could not get on board for hours because heat inside the natural gas-fueled vehicle could have caused more explosions. Police were searching for the driver, who they say appeared to flee the scene. Well, when you think of your next vacation, heading out to a farm might not be first on your list. But Travel Manitoba is hoping to change that. More on that straight ahead. Stay with us. There were large crowds today at the Forks as dozens of seniors attended a climate change event. The group says they must do what they can to ensure future generations can continue to thrive. CBC's Felicia Adam has the story.
Because that's not being taken into consideration.
Manitobans young and old came together all with the common goal of putting an end to climate change.
We need to focus on this for future generations.
Linda Trono, one of the many in attendance, made sure her voice was heard. She's with a group called the Raging Grannies.
I'm really concerned about this. I'm voting for climate action because I have a granddaughter and I care about her future. I think we need serious, committed political leadership.
Trono's 6-year-old granddaughter is the driving force in her fight against climate change.
What I'm trying to do is keep an active hope and believe that people are going to work together to solve this. And there's all kinds of individual people wanting to do things, but politicians need to act.
Over 20 different exhibits all about climate change and its impact on Canadians. The folks here want to show others what they can do to help stop climate change.
You can't ignore what's happening, and I just wanted to learn more about what we might be able to do to help.
I think even as seniors, there are things that we can do. I think sometimes people think, well, it's too late for our generation, but I think there's always something we can do.
Those with exhibits sharing solutions ranging from agriculture and clean energy to signing petitions and writing letters to elected officials.
There's individual things that people can do, but together we've got lots of power. We've got time and experience and resources, and we need to be asking our governments to do more now.
Seniors for Climate Change Manitoba says they will continue to hold events that share ways anyone can do their part for the environment. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
As you plan your next vacation, you might be considering beaches, mountains, or a bustling city. Travel Manitoba hope folks will add farms to that list. The federal government is putting $250,000 toward creating a new agri-tourism corridor between Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Travel Manitoba's Jackie Tenuta spoke on Radio Noon earlier today about why Manitoba is the perfect spot for agri-tourism.
We have a lot of expertise here. We have a very strong, robust industry, and it just makes a lot of sense for us to capitalize on those assets and build upon them. We also have great tourism assets here. There's already some existing agritourism operators in the area. We want to build them up. We want to identify new opportunities for them. And so there's definitely a lot of room to grow.
What does that look like in terms of maybe what exists now in Manitoba, as you're mentioning, or in other countries that do agritourism? What are some examples if folks are having a hard time kind of picturing what agritourism is?
Well, I think we have some work to do on like how broad of a scope this is. So certainly there's kind of the leisure travel component, which is, what you described, visiting a farm. Could also be a culinary experience where, where a restaurant is sourcing a lot of their ingredients locally or growing a lot of their ingredients. It could be something like that. It could be a festival where you're getting to sample and reflect upon the harvest of that area. It could be a farmer's market. Could be something like that. The other piece of it is more the technical side of it. And so, as you may be aware, there's already lots of people that come to our province to go to various ag events that are part of the industry or have an interest in the industry. And so there's that component to it as well. How can we kind of enhance those visits that are already taking place from that technical side?
Do you see this as an opportunity to maybe open up Manitoba and certain areas that are very agricultural based to tourism that haven't really been looked at as tourist destinations before?
Absolutely. So we certainly see this as a really big opportunity for some rural areas, for them to see increased visitation, for them to expand on, some of those, existing economic drivers that are already there, but really expand on that and give them other opportunities. So absolutely that's part of it.
So what kind of tourists do you hope to attract with this program? Are you thinking staycationers or bringing people from outside of Manitoba?
I think there's opportunities for both. I think certainly getting people to travel more around the region is going to be a big part of this, getting Winnipeggers to look outside of the city to see what there is to offer, get them to travel a little further, get them to spend the night somewhere. But I also think there's an opportunity for what we call the fly drive market. So people flying in, spending a few days and traveling around or, moving on through the corridor to another destination. So moving on into Saskatchewan to, experience what that province also has to offer for agritourism.
You talked about the culinary side of things just a little bit. What sort of opportunities would be there for restaurant owners and even producers?
Well, I think there's kind of, we're not going to know until we kind of go through this whole process, but there's a few different sides to this that we see. One is like really expanding on the development of the industry, but then there's going to be a marketing component to this as well. So drawing more attention to those culinary operators that already exist out there. So there's going to be that piece of it as well, just a heightened awareness. There may be supports that come to light to help some of these businesses grow and develop. We also see potentially, and we haven't done any of the consultations on this yet, but we do actually potentially see some opportunities for Indigenous tourism. There are already, as you may be aware, a number of restaurants in the city and in other parts of the province that are Indigenous owned and are focused on, ingredients that come, from the land. And so I think there's a great opportunity there as well, not just for culinary, but for other things also.
And I can't imagine that this conversation is happening without talking about the economic benefit this brings to Manitoba for agricultural tourism. What do you think this could offer smaller communities in our province?
Yeah, definitely. I would see it as a big opportunity for smaller communities that already have agriculture as a big part of their industry, which is, a lot of communities in Manitoba. So definitely, that chance to, take what they already have and make it something, bigger and better and draw those visitors to that region.
Have you been in conversation with, is there a Tourism Saskatchewan? Does that exist?
Yes, yeah. They're
amazing.
Absolutely.
What are you hearing from them?
Yeah, so we're partnered with them on this. We actually worked jointly with them to submit this proposal into Destination Canada. And we've worked with them a bit already. They're very collaborative and we work well with them. So that is part of what is going to really make this work. And we have already connected with a few of the key communities along the corridor and some of the key associations that would be involved in this as well. And they're very much in support. And so the next step now is to kind of broaden that and reach out to more folks and see who else wants to be part of this initiative.
Riley's back now, and Riley, we're talking about agritourism, and I love that because one of my favorite things to do when I go to a new city is check out the food scene. So when we're talking the food scene, we're talking farm to table, all of these things, and bringing more people in to experience it, on board.
Yeah.
It's fall time, fall supper.
Fall suppers. I was going to say that farms are fun, so are fall suppers.
Yeah.
And morning dog walks, too, maybe a bit chilly. Yeah, let's get into it with your dog walking forecast here. A chance of we could see an isolated shower through the morning hours tomorrow. This is Monty. Thanks, Kimberly, for sending this picture. It might be a little bit wet in some cases for Monty tomorrow morning. I don't mean to say that it's going to be a washout, but certainly we could see some scattered showers through the early morning tomorrow. And then the winds pick up again as we get through the day. So 12 degrees to start the day tomorrow. West winds 15, gusting to 30, gusting to 40 by the time we get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and then 14 by supper time tomorrow. And we keep the northwest winds for the next couple of days. So expect a breezy couple of days ahead. You can keep sending your pictures to talkback at cbc.ca. I'm waiting to see them anytime. Big picture, couple things going on. First, I'll note this line of showers moving through Ontario. This is that cold front that swept through Manitoba through the day yesterday, really dragging our temperatures down. That area of low pressure now over Nunavut, bringing those gusty winds, the potential even for some light snow through parts of northern Manitoba overnight tonight, and a strong area of low pressure off the Pacific coast, bringing some rain, some showers to parts of the BC interior. So a little bit unsettled across the province, really, but the maritime provinces sunny skies. So that's where we do have some calm weather. Overnight tonight, risk of some isolated showers, 8 degrees for parts of Westman, 6 in Swan River, 10 in Peguis overnight tonight, 5 in Norway House, getting down below 0 in Thompson, -1 overnight, as well as into Dooley Lake, where we could see maybe some wet flurries through the overnight period tonight. As we look at your forecast for Wednesday, we're looking at, again, chance of some scattered wet flurries, some showers, really temperature dependent as these temperatures dance around the freezing mark up to single digits, 7s and 8s by the time we get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. For the south, mix of sun and clouds, maybe some isolated showers first thing in the morning, Brittany, and we're looking at temperatures staying pretty seasonal around that 15-degree mark as we get through the afternoon.
I think the pooch might need a little rain jacket or sweater for the next few days.
I don't mean that it's going to be a total washout, but yeah, be prepared for maybe a couple of scattered showers as we get through the day tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Still ahead, we'll have one last look on our forecast and, of course, your daily lift. Stay with us.
this place.
Every corner of Manitoba has its own story.
Every community has a tale to tell.
And CBC is here to share them.
Everywhere you are.
In every way we can.
Watching, listening, reading, streaming.
Sharing. CBC, telling Manitoba's story wherever you are.
So I dressed up our sunset tracker a little bit. This is actually a picture I took a little while ago, so I hope you like it. But let's look at the sunset times, because these are kind of interesting over the next few weeks. Days are getting shorter. 7:03 is our sunset tonight. A couple weeks from now, 6:36, and then 6:22 by the time we get to October the 22nd. So the days are getting shorter, yeah. They always do. 15 degrees for Wednesday. We have some breezy conditions through the rest of the work week. Temperatures staying dry as we get through and pretty seasonal through the weekend, up to 19 for Tuesday. I have a weather picture for you. This is from Deb, who shot this at George Lake, which is in Turtle Mountain Provincial Park near Boissevain. You can send your pics to talkback@cbc.ca anytime. A nice fall one.
Yeah.
Well, dribble, shoot, score, repeat. Kids were out shooting hoops on Dauphin's new outdoor basketball court over the weekend.
The court was built for the 2024 Manitoba Summer Games in August, and that's today's Daily Lift.
5, 4.
More than 40 kids and teens worked on their skills and walked off the court with a new basketball. Clayton Swanton is the past co-chair of the Summer Games. He says the colorful court was designed by elementary and high school students.
We ended up with was a fantastic mix of the cultures and the nature of our region. So we've got a Métis symbol in the 3-point lines, we've got the medicine wheel in the middle, and then we've got the colors for the Ukrainian heritage, the blue and the yellow, and then we've got nature, our tie-in with the sun and the waves, because Dauphin is just a beautiful spot in Manitoba.
So this is the first court Buckets and Borders has helped build in rural Manitoba. The nonprofit builds and refurbishes basketball courts right around the world, with more than 20 courts right across the country.
I love the colors of it.
I was just going to say that. I really love the bright blues and the yellows and the reds.
It screams summertime in Manitoba. So do those shorts and t-shirts, my goodness.
I know. Like a weekend, a great weekend to be outside, really.
Get rid of those, get those sweaters in. It's time for fall. Yeah. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a wonderful night.
See ya.